Okay, let's dive into this. Since the dawn of time, the ocean has just been this constant, terrifying mystery to us. I mean, that primordial curiosity about what's actually lurking down there in the deep, it struck a chord in human consciousness for literally millennia. So today, we're going through an explainer of a source that forces us to look that exact fear right in the eyes. We're talking about a massive, completely unfathomable oceanic entity known as the SCP-3000 anomaly. When we stand on the shore and stare out at that endless expanse of water, we really have to ask ourselves, what lies at the bottom of that deep blue murk? Throughout history, humanity has kind of been terrified of our vast oceans, and honestly, for very good reason. It's a dangerous, uncertain place filled with ancient, lurking mysteries. It really makes you wonder, right? Just what exactly is down there?
To put this cosmic horror into perspective, just take a look at this. We literally know more about the surface of our moon than we do about the bottom of our own oceans. Mankind has explored roughly 10% of the ocean floor. That means a staggering 90% is just an endless, pitch-black mystery. So it's totally within the realm of possibility that some ancient, primordial creature has been lingering down there for eons, hiding out in an ecosystem we know absolutely zero about. And, well, according to the SCP Foundation, the secret to our very sanity might just be hiding in those unexplored depths.
Section 1. Anatomy of a Leviathan. Let's look at the sheer scale of SCP-3000. And this brilliantly illustrates just how incomprehensible this thing is. Located deep in the Ganges Fan, way off the coast of the Bay of Bengal, the scale of this creature is just impossible to wrap your head around. It strongly resembles a giant moray eel, but its full length, actually impossible to determine for sure. Right now, it's hypothesized to be anywhere between 600 and 900 kilometers long. I mean, that is a scale the human mind immediately struggles to even visualize. It's mind-boggling. But just to make this entity feel a bit more physically real for a second, let's talk about its width. Even though it spans hundreds of kilometers in length, the head of SCP-3000 only measures about 2.5 meters in diameter, with sections of its main body maxing out around 10 meters thick. So picture that. It's an impossibly long, megalithic organism just resting silently right at the bottom of our world. Now, for the most part, this entity is a sedentary carnivore. The vast majority of its massive body rarely moves at all. In fact, it doesn't even seem to need typical sustenance to keep its biological functions going. It pretty much only moves its head when it reacts to specific stimuli or, well, when it feeds. And make no mistake, despite being so sluggish, it can move with absolute terrifying speed to snatch up its prey. And that perfectly sets up the truly sinister reality of what this thing actually eats. Which brings us to Section 2, the Y99 Secret. A truly dark resource. Now, what's really interesting about this is that here is where the whole narrative pivots from a straightforward monster story into something much darker. You see, SCP-3000 is designated as a Thaumiel class anomaly. In Foundation speak, that means the anomaly is absolutely intrinsic to the continued operational success of the organization itself. SCP-3000 creates this massive ethical dilemma, unlike anything humanity has ever faced, because it isn't just a monster they need to lock away in a box. It's a heavily guarded, incredibly vital resource. Let's move to this and see how the process actually works, because it is chilling. Step 1. The creature is actively fed a healthy diet of expendable human test subjects, the Foundation's D-class personnel. Step 2. As it consumes this unfortunate prey, it actually excretes a thin layer of a viscous dark gray substance right through its skin. This is classified as Y999, or as it's colloquially known, eel jelly. And finally, Step 3. This substance is carefully harvested by Foundation divers. But why go through all this trouble? Well, because this jelly happens to be the literal holy grail of mind-altering amnestics. To really understand why this matters, we have to look at the fragility of human sanity. In most cases, the human mind simply cannot process the complexities of these anomalous cosmic horrors without completely snapping and succumbing to madness. So to protect everyday humanity, the Foundation administers these amnestics. You can kind of think of it like the memory-wiping neuralizer from Men in Black. But the horrific twist here is that the exact chemical required to protect our sanity is being secreted straight out of the belly of a giant, man-eating sea eel. Section 3. Ancient Myths Vindicated. Exploring our deepest ancestral fears. The idea of a megalithic aquatic serpent isn't exactly new, right? Human history and our ancestry have been totally wrapped around this concept since the literal dawn of time. I mean, look at this list. Lotan, Leviathan, Tiamat, Iluyanka, Yamu, Jormungandr. In the Hindu faith, you have the Naga and the serpent king Ananta Shesha, the primordial creation god, which, by the way, a lot of people within the SCP lore consider to be exactly what SCP-3000 actually is. And, of course, there's Ouroboros, the snake swallowing its own tail. Discovering a creature like this down at the bottom of the ocean would validate our ancestors' absolute deepest fears. Think about it. All those ancient creation myths about a giant serpent wrapping itself around the entire planet, suddenly, they'd sound completely reasonable. Section 4. The cost of sanity. Let's look at the massive ethical dilemmas at play here.
So the crucial point is, what actually happens when we confront a reality this incredibly vast? This whole concept perfectly echoes the cosmic horror you'd find in stories by Edgar Allan Poe or H.P. Lovecraft. Literature has always played around with mankind's futile incomprehension of a life form that is just plain bigger than us. If we discovered SCP-3000 out of nowhere without the chemical protection of amnestics, we probably couldn't even get near the thing without completely losing our minds. It would seriously be like rediscovering the dinosaurs times a million on acid at the very bottom of the ocean.
And that brings us to this incredibly twisted irony. It is a secret sustained by the source itself. The human mind is super fragile, sure, but it is also relentless. If an organization found this creature, scraped off its weird eel jelly, and manufactured an entire planet's worth of memory-wiping drugs, well, it provides the absolute perfect mechanism to cover up its own existence. The anomaly literally provides the exact cure needed to make sure humanity totally forgets that a giant sea serpent is sleeping at the bottom of the ocean.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought. When the terrifying truth of the universe is vast enough to completely shatter the human mind, are some things just meant to be kept a secret? It really forces us to ponder the massive cost of our own blissful ignorance. We have to ask ourselves if hiding the truth in the dark isn't just a choice, but an absolute requirement for our survival. Thank you so much for diving into this incredibly fascinating and honestly horrifying explainer with me today. Until next time, keep your curiosity sharp.